Welcome to Stories of Amazing Grace. The views and opinions expressed on Stories of Amazing Grace are those of the guests appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the Madison Church of Christ or the producer of this program. Enjoy.
Good evening. I'm Larry Souder, and welcome to Stories of Amazing Grace. We're coming to you from Bixler Chapel at the Madison Church of Christ in Madison, Tennessee. Thank you for joining us on YouTube and for listening to excerpts from this show on World Christian Broadcasting through the facilities of World Christian Broadcasting on KNLS and Madagascar World Voice. And thank you for the live audience for being with us today. Our theme scripture always comes from Romans 8:38 through 39. I am sure that nothing can separate us from God's love, not life or death, not angels or spirits, not the present or the future, and not powers above or powers below. Nothing in all creation can separate us from God's love for us in Christ Jesus our Lord. Well, tonight's guest is a Christian radio broadcaster, but he didn't start out that way. Konstantin was a Russian medical doctor who came to America for additional training at Vanderbilt University, but ended up becoming a Christian and a Christian radio broadcaster. So, take a look at this video. You'll see what he does now, and we'll find out how he got there during the interview.
Broadcasting over the air on KNLS, Anchor Point, Alaska, USA, and now via our transmitter in the beautiful Indian Ocean region.
Broadcasting to China, Russia, the Pacific Rim, and the world. This is your new life station, KNLS, Anchor Point, Alaska, USA.
Welcome to the KNLS English Hour.
这里是生命之光广播电台.
Говорит радиостанция КНЛС с города Анкор-Пойнт, Аляска. Вы слушаете русское вещание.
Broadcasting to Africa, India, the Middle East, Latin America, and the world. From Madagascar, this is Madagascar World Voice.
Welcome to African Pathways Radio, a service of Madagascar World Voice.
أهلا وسهلا مع ساعة المنوعات العربية من راديو فدا.
Bienvenido a la hora latinoamericana en Voz Mundial Madagascar.
It started as a dream in the 1970s, a super powerful radio station or network of stations to broadcast the good news of Jesus to the entire world.
Russia is indeed an enormous and diverse country with many cultures. However, for the past several years, the economy has become very unstable for most of the population. Many people feel depressed and without hope. Many everyday problems arise from this. Knowing that our major effort has been in supporting the spirit of Russians, we are trying our best to deliver a message that God, indeed, cares about them and loves them. And when Russians decide to be baptized, they really want to make this event extremely memorable. Our dear friends, you listen in radio station KNLS. We're broadcasting from beautiful Alaska, and I'm your host. And start today our hour with smooth jazz, Jim Brickman's composition Serenade. За всю историю христианства есть только один миссионер, которого узнают по его цвету. И у нас, и в других странах даже те, кто не считает себя верующими, 17 марта надевают что-нибудь зеленое, празднуя День Святого Патрика. What I was reading was an intro to a cappella music.
This is your new life station. Thanks for making us a part of your day.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Konstantin. Come on up.
Hi, Larry.
Have a seat, sir.
Glad to be here, Larry.
Well, I've known you about 18 years or so, and I thought I knew about everything about you, but I found a video on YouTube concerning a, kind of disturbing job that you had in your past. that I just hadn't known about. So we could play that. Maybe you'd comment on it.
Okay. Yeah, that's me in the center. I had to serve in the Russian army. That's what we do there.
That's not really him, but I found that and I thought it looked a lot like you. Well, let's talk about why we are only using your first name.
Well, we started recently broadcasting from Madagascar, and we used to broadcast only from Alaska to eastern part of Russia. But on the European part of Russia and Middle East, a lot of Muslim population. And as you know, Wahhabism is far-right segment of Islam, where most of terrorists come from. So we kind of uneasy about revealing all information about ourselves, especially, for example, in Arabic departments, they even do not tell that we broadcast from Madagascar or Indian Oceans. They just say Radio Feda, that is it.
Do you fear perhaps repercussions for your family in Russia?
Not that much, but just precaution.
Yeah. Let's talk about your family. Believers growing up in Russia or not?
My grandmother was a believer because she was born before October Revolution 1917, and it was a common tradition in Russia to be a believer. She was a Russian Orthodox Church attendee and believer, and she kind of carried all this belief in God and Christianity all her life, despite Soviet Union or anything else. And she was probably the first person from whom I heard about Christianity, Jesus Christ, but I didn't pay that much attention about that.
How about your mother and father?
Well, that's where I was going.
Okay.
In 1991, first missionaries came to my hometown, Archangel. It was
say that again.
Arkhangelsk, Archangel. It's actually a city of angels.
Okay.
Los Angeles the same, but in Russian. Daryl Simon from Kentucky and his family, they stayed for 1 year. And it was a great time of openness in the Soviet Union at that time. They were permitted to deliver lectures. It was not officially kind of preaching, but delivering lectures about English language, but they did preach. And my mom first started to go there, and then my stepfather, and I was agnostic that time. I didn't pay that much attention. Also, I was attending medical university, didn't have that much time.
So maybe anyway. God existed, maybe it didn't in your life.
Right.
Agnostic.
Right.
Yeah.
But we also heard about KNLS broadcasting. It was sporadic. Mostly we were listening to Voice of America, Radio Free Liberty, Deutsche Welle, and KNLS sometimes. We always associated KNLS with Alaska. So missionaries came, they also told us about KNLS. We tried to listen more often, but only sporadic because it's so far away in Alaska. Anyway, in 1996, I had an opportunity to come to the United States to do additional study in
Let's back up here. You were a doctor in Russia.
Right. I had my own private practice.
And what specialized? What were you?
Family medicine and allergies.
And allergies?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we got a few of those here in Tennessee.
Yes, yes.
So
I noticed it.
I looked on the internet about the medical field in Russia and doctors. They don't seem to be as held in high esteem as they are in America, and they're certainly not paid as much. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, that's true. At least it used to be like that.
Yeah.
Because in Soviet Union, everyone had about the same salary.
Which was?
About $100, $150 per month.
Per month.
Of course, not per day. But you also need to consider how much spending they need to do. So $150 was all right for Soviet Union because For example, my parents used to pay only like $3, maybe $2 per month for housing.
How much?
$2 or $3 per
month
month for housing. So you understand, it's all relative.
Yeah.
But again, it was all the same for all people.
Okay.
We didn't have that much difference in salaries.
What medical school did you go to in your hometown?
It's Archangel State Medical University.
Okay. Before you go any further, I've got to slip a video in here
Okay.
about your hometown. You sent me some clips from YouTube about it, and I pieced something together. So let's take a look at this and
Sure.
get an idea where you came from. See, I always pictured that you came from Siberia, some shack out in the wilderness somewhere, but this is a pretty good-looking town here.
Well, it's pretty small, yes. It used to be about 500,000 people, but right now it's less because a lot of people moved. It's almost on the Arctic Circle, very cold there.
Did you see the northern lights?
Oh, yeah, many times. Yeah.
They're that beautiful?
Yes.
Wow. And very cold in the winter, I assume?
Well, it used to be colder, minus 40.
That's pretty to be.
Yes, but these days it's much milder. Yeah.
Minus 20?
Yes, only. That's true.
Well, before we get too far into you coming to America, tell me a little more about Russia, about life in Russia, maybe the restrictions you had on your life.
You mean in Soviet Union?
Yeah, Soviet Union, of course.
Well, I grew up there, and I didn't pay too much attention on politics. I was young. I was more caring about friends, how we can spend spare time.
Right.
So it was, I can't complain about that time.
So you had a good time?
I had a good time.
Okay.
Sorry to disappoint you.
Yeah, well, I was looking for something deep.
I had very good grandparents. They took great care of me, especially in summertime. We had, in high school or in general in school, I had 3 months vacation. I always spent in the southern part of Russia with my grandparents. They treated me very well. Really enjoyed that time. Had very good friends. Got education free of charge. I didn't have to pay.
Maybe you should have stayed there.
Yes, but it all changed. That's why I left. Anyway, yeah, my life was relatively good. Of course, we had these lines of people for food. For example, if you want to buy some milk or sausages or bread, you need to come early in the morning. Otherwise, after lunch, it's almost all gone.
You talked about the importance of religion in your grandmother's life. How important is religion overall in Russia?
Right now?
When you were growing up?
It was not important at all, because it was more the religion for older people, as they called it, because they brought these memories and these beliefs from old Russia before revolution. So they carried it all through Soviet Union, they kept it. But for younger people, it was more like something out of this world, something for old people. Mm-hmm. And for example, in my hometown, it used to be 2 churches, Russian Orthodox Church. Mm-hmm. But we were discouraged to go there, even though it was open. You can go there. But if you want to succeed in some career, you must become communist. And for communists to go to church, it's unthinkable. It's almost the same as in Cuba right now. I visited Cuba recently just to kind of compare it what we had in Soviet Union and what socialism they have right now in Cuba. And it's a lot of churches in Cuba, in Havana, for example, synagogues, Russian Orthodox Church, mosque, and it's open. You can freely go there, but people discouraged to go there, especially if you want to make a career in the government or somewhere else.
All right, let's go back to your story then. You were a medical doctor in Russia, and you wanted additional training in America?
Yeah, it was a great time because a lot of non-government organizations came to Russia. Soviet Union people, they were very open towards America. And they want to look abroad because we didn't travel that much as right now, for example. It was very hard to obtain foreign passport to visit other countries. And here is a time of openness. You can go anywhere else if you have the possibilities, of course, I mean financial. And here is some American company came and they were offering to come to America for 1 year to visit American hospitals on exchange kind of programming and to see how medicine operates in the United States. And I was selected from few people and I came here and I was really glad that this opportunity came to my life.
So you were a pretty smart guy, weren't you? Maybe still are, I don't know.
Maybe just lucky one, yeah. And I knew English because in our school, I knew it a little bit better than other people. So in our school, we studied it from 2nd grade.
You speak any other languages besides Russian and English?
No.
Okay, well, that's enough. Okay. All right, you came to America and to study at Vanderbilt, is that right?
Right.
Okay. Did you enroll at Vanderbilt then?
No, just it was an exchange program.
Exchange, okay.
Right.
So what happened then?
Well, I lived in Brentwood with a kind of distant friend, American friend and his family. And one day I got a call from Vincent Knox. He was a missionary from Kentucky also. He visited my hometown and saw my parents. And they passed through him just a letter, regular, snail mail, because we didn't have internet at that time.
Gotcha.
And regular mail used to go for a couple of months in between countries. So he brought mails and he said, do you want to have some brunch tomorrow? I said, yeah, sure, of course. So we met for brunch. We had a very good meal, excellent conversation. He passed me those mails and he said, well, look, I have a friend here, Wesley Jones. He's an elder in a local Church of Christ. Would you like to meet him? I said, well, sure, okay. So we went to Harpeth Hills Church of Christ where I met Wesley Jones. And he was very soft-spoken man, not very pushy. And he said, at the end of our meeting, he said, do you want to study some Bible maybe with me? Maybe just once a week. I said, yeah, okay, since my parents and I have more time right now. Okay, let's do that. And then on the first meeting, I realized, he told me actually, that he is a follow-up director in World Christian Broadcasting.
Program director?
Follow-up director.
Follow-up director, follow-up, yes.
And he said, yeah, we broadcast from Alaska. It's KNLS radio station. I said, wait a second. KNLS? I heard about KNLS, but it's in Alaska. How your people here in Tennessee?
Right.
How is it possible? He said, well, it's an operational center here in Tennessee. It kind of struck me. It was very amazing that I came by chance here in Tennessee, in Nashville, and they have operational center here. And we started to study Bible, and also he said, well, look, you have a great voice. Would you like to volunteer to record some Russian programming? We don't have enough voices. I said, okay, yeah, sure. So I started to come to World Christian and recorded some Russian programs, and they really loved my voice.
But loved your voice.
Yeah, loved my voice.
That's what they say about me a lot.
Maybe it's a little bit better in Russian than it's in English. So, but anyway, and I started to study Bible with him more often. And I said, Wesley, look, I have this idea. Why don't my grandmother baptize me? He said, that would be great. Because I told him how much respectful I am for my grandparents. And at one visit to my grandmother, she baptized me in a local river. And it was a great kind of event in my life. Probably.
It wasn't like this with the ice and...
No, she lived in the southern part of Russia, so unfortunately I could not boast about that.
So you were baptized in Russia?
Right.
Okay.
By my grandmother.
Wow.
So I came here back, and Wesley said, look, would you like to have a job here with World Christian Broadcasting? And I thought about that for a while, and then I agreed. And since then, from 1999, I work for World Christian Broadcasting.
And I met you, what year?
Probably 2000 or beginning 2001.
Yeah. Well, what do you do every day down there? You just sit around and go in a booth and read a couple scripts and go home? What do you do?
Yeah, I'm a host of Russian programming, so most of those scripts...
You're a producer of Russian programming?
Host, yeah.
Host, and producer as well?
A producer, yeah.
Okay.
So I write some programming, but I consult more experienced people who has degrees in theology, of course. I cannot write that good. But also we translate a lot of programming from English language, from English department, from Chinese department, some from Spanish department. And we had also writers from Russia who were writing about cultural events or famous Russian, for example. So we have quite a number of programming.
Describe the format that you...
Well, it's a magazine format, which means that we do not preach straight 1 hour, because our programming is for unbelievers. We're trying to attract unbelievers to maybe start to study by themselves Bible or to be interested in Christianity. So we need to kind of attract their attention, and we produce small segments, 5 to 10 minutes, about Christianity. Then we play a cappella music, then maybe jazz, then we offer free literature, then some segment about culture in America, then again about Bible, and so on.
And that's to hook the listener?
Yes, okay. To make them more interested in our program.
And what kind of response are you getting from this?
We had an excellent response in 80s and 90s. Actually, at the beginning of 90s, when Iron Curtain fell, and people had the opportunity to write directly. Like in 1 year, we received probably 20,000 letters.
How many?
20,000.
20,000.
Yeah. But right now, it's much less, and it's kind of dwindled from beginning of 2000, because in the beginning, for example, of 2000, people loved to receive free literature, because Russia didn't have Christian literature. But right now, it's abundance of Christian literature. So basically right now people write just to thank us for programming. And also in St. Petersburg we have office that's responsible to send literature, but also they have a Christian study course. And it's in Brentwood Church of Christ from Texas. They support it. And they have right now about 2,000 people who study Bible through correspondence course.
What are the other languages that are broadcast?
Just in general at World Christian?
Yeah.
Chinese, English, Arabic, Spanish, and recently we started Portuguese. The guy from Brazil, he's preparing programming, and we will put it in schedule beginning October this year.
And the signals from Alaska and Madagascar pretty much cover the earth, or not?
Yes, from Alaska, it's very strong in European part. In eastern part of Russia, in Siberia, Japan, China, Pacific Rim, like Malaysia, for example, or Papua New Guinea, also in New Zealand, Australia. But from Madagascar, it's very strong in India, China, all European part of Russia and former Soviet Union republics and Europe, plus northern part of Africa and South America.
Most of us don't have a shortwave radio here, but if we had one, could we pick it up here?
Yes, you can.
You can.
We tried it several times at World Christian Broadcasting. We picked up our Chinese broadcasting, African English department broadcasting, and even Russian broadcasting from Alaska. Theoretically, it's not supposed to go to United States to Tennessee, contiguous United States, but for some reason we can receive it here.
Wow. Well, where would you have been if you had not met Wesley Jones as far as your Christian walk goes?
Probably I would be still agnostic living in Russia, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
So it's amazing how sometimes small meeting changes the whole life of a person.
And it did in your case.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's go up to the year 2000, 2001. We went to St. Petersburg, Russia. You went, Buddy Reagan went, Dale Ward was a writer, producer, head of programming, I think,
Right.
World Christian at the time. Nicholas Stevens, I believe that was his nephew,
Yes.
went to kind of take care of Dale because he was had knee replacement surgery, I think, just before the trip. Marat Kabola,
Yeah,
close?
that's correct. Yep.
and me. And we went to St. Petersburg. Why?
We want to produce a movie about Christian roots of Russia, because Russia had and has a lot of Christian-related art, as well as literature, and majority of it was produced during 19th century, 18th century, and it was not abandoned. It was still in museums or literature. Of course, we studied Dostoevsky, Tolstoy, Pushkin, Yesenin, but we didn't pay attention on that part of life of artists or writers, or we were saying that by our teachers that don't pay attention, he was writing that because of he wants to just to please Russian Orthodox Church and so on. But when we start to study it, it's abundance of Christianity in all this poetry, writing. And we wanted to show that to Russians because it was 2000. Russia just started to open itself to spirituality, to Christianity, and we wanted to show people that they have these roots. All they need to do is to come back to those roots.
And we all went over there, and I had a bunch of camera equipment, and everything went smoothly. Is that correct?
No. We came here to Nashville Airport, and I came early, and I was waiting, guys, and then Larry showed up with Buddy Reagan, and it was crates and crates and crates of equipment. And I thought, wow, this is crazy. How are we going to travel with all of that? And okay, Buddy paid additional fees for that, but when we came to St. Petersburg, those custom officers, I think they had their day, or maybe
They didn't like us. They didn't like us very well.
No, but they had eyes like that. They never seen anything like that. So they seized all equipment. They said, well, you cannot bring all this here. But actually, Larry, he smuggled a bag, because in all this commotion which appeared there, they, said, oh, no, we are seizing it, we are arresting this, we are putting it in the storage, you cannot take it in. And Larry smuggled a bag with smaller camera. So we were there, I think, for 17 days, and it took us, I think, 12 or 14 days to get it back.
I don't think it was that long. You really think it was that long?
Absolutely, I'm positive. Because we had only like 3 days to do shooting in Hermitage Museum and Russian Museum. Absolutely, yeah.
And what we do during the downtime?
Well, you were shooting with smaller camera, and of course we went to this pastry place. Mm-hmm. I tell you the secret, Larry really likes pastries. And excellent pastries in St. Petersburg.
Excellent.
Highly recommend you. We were sitting there in a cafe, drinking coffee with pastries, and Larry eating this pastry, and at the end he said, that close to heaven.
Tell me what this piece of paper is.
Oh yeah, this is actually a permit from custom. Finally, I caught up with director of Hermitage Museum, and he guaranteed that he's a guarantee that we will take all this equipment back to United States. I mean, are we going to leave it there? Obviously not, but he had to guarantee it, and the signature of 5 additional people to guarantee it. And then we finally got to custom, and they released that equipment, and we paid some penalty for storage. I think it was like $500 or something. But anyway, it was a really big ordeal. And also, remember one more funny thing. We kind of hired a person with a van to drive us around. And he was actually a policeman. So out of duty, he was driving us. And I was on the front seat, and all guys were on the back. And once while I was driving with him, and I asking him, so you're a police officer, that's good, you can protect us. But do you have your gun with you? He said, of course I have. And those guys on the back, they were not listening, but he just pulled his gun, and they saw the gun, and they were completely berserk, like, oh, what's going on?
We waited day after day every morning at the Hermitage Museum in the cold lobby, stark area, waiting for permission to go into the museum to do any filming. We have a video of, you remember when you were younger, or your parents would show you slideshows of home movies and things, and they would narrate, this is where we went to Miami and did this, and you were bored to death. This is kind of what I got here. This is some rough, raw footage of St. Petersburg, so I'm going to narrate some of this. This is the subway. That's me standing there shooting the escalator. Not long after this, a security guard came and took me away, said, don't tape there. That's one of the tunnels in the subway. This is the thousands of people coming down the escalator who use this transportation system. Out on the street, Russians like to smoke, and Europe also, but a lot of smoking going on. This is a street scene. Kids like to be filmed. A couple we found near a church. A little girl playing a violin on the street, very intent in playing and seeking money, I guess, for her family.
Yes, actually it was.
This is one of the buses that we rode throughout the city, and it was on this bus where I was pickpocketed. He took my wallet, which I carefully put in my breast pocket up here in my coat, thinking nobody would take it. And within the course of an hour, he took my American Express card and spent $40,000. $40,000. This is one of the churches, probably Russian Orthodox church. You meant to correct me on that. But
yeah, cathedral.
And another church, the bell tower. I was surprised that there's so many Russian churches there. This is Church of Christ in St. Petersburg, and they met, I believe it's on the second or third floor of a rented space in a building. This is their Sunday morning worship service.
Yeah, since that they bought up that floor.
And this is not the Church of Christ, but this is a very famous church. What is the name of it? The Church of Our Savior
on Blood Cathedral.
Spilled Blood. It's actually more red than this color here, the green. This is some behind-the-scenes footage. This is Buddy upset probably that I'm shooting something incorrectly of the paintings. This is in the Hermitage. There's some people that came with us. This is some of the equipment we took with us in the background there that were in 2 or 3 trunks, foot lockers. Some of the crew we had with us that came from the United States. This is the Prodigal Son painting by Rembrandt in the Hermitage Museum. Just some behind-the-scenes footage here. All right, now the next clip here, and we'll talk about this a little more too after we see it, but this is a clip from the first program we did of the 2 of the Hermitage Museum. And the next clip was of the Russian Museum. So let's play this one here.
Наша программа называется «Священные сокровища. Священные корни. Искусство и Библия в России».
Впервые я побывал в Эрмитаже, пожалуй, в 1985 году. В то время я служил в армии под Ленинградом. У нас была небольшая экскурсия по Эрмитажу. Сюжет этой картины одновременно завораживает и приводит в смятение. Как может отец убить своего сына? Разве жертвоприношение – это не язычество? Но так Бог повелел Аврааму.
Мы попросили нескольких посетителей музея поделиться с нами своими мыслями об этой картине.
Здесь много чувств, страданий, эмоций. Она вызывает различные чувства. И сострадание, и жалости к старику, и радость, что все хорошо закончится, мы же знаем это.
Конечно, мне эта картина очень нравится. Я его видела в книге где-то, и поэтому я решила посмотреть ее в увеличенном виде, все.
Скажите, пожалуйста, христианство какую-то роль в вашей жизни играет или нет?
А как же, конечно, мы верим в Бога.
The statement this lady made, of course we believe in God. As an American looking at thinking about Russia, having never been there before, I wouldn't have thought that. But that was the case. There were many people who did believe in God. Is that correct?
Well, but as you can see, it's older lady.
Yes.
That's probably she was born in older times when church were in full power and a lot of believers. But younger people who were standing around, they were probably his first experience thinking or listening something about Jesus Christ.
So they were not aware that these artists were inspired by the Bible to paint these masterpieces.
No.
Right. Next place we visited was the Russian Museum, and that was part 2 of our series. Let's take a look at that.
Давайте же пройдем в Русский музей и на примере всех этих шедевров рассмотрим богатство и духовное содержание Библии.
Картина светится надеждой. Иисус прикасается к руке девочки, и мы вдруг верим, что сейчас совершится чудо. Нет в Писании более интригующей и противоречивой темы, чем тема предательства Иуды Искариота. Эта скульптура Киприана Гадебского запечатлела надменность Иуды, которой противопоставлена невинность Христа.
Верный вопрос будет: кто есть истина? И верный ответ на этот вопрос ведет к покою души, даже если на все остальные вопросы невозможно найти ответа.
You're so serious in these stand-ups, and I think Buddy made the comment, loosen up. But you said, this is what they expect in Russia. This is how people are on TV. This is
Absolutely.
What they expect. Is that right? Wow.
We don't jump with joy about something.
Yeah.
If you want to make people believe that you are serious, you need to be serious.
Yeah. How are these? Now, we did two programs. These are called Sacred Treasures, Sacred Roots. They're both a half hour in length, I believe. Where's an hour?
Is that correct? Half an hour.
Half
each.
hour. How were they used?
Well, we tried to put it on a central TV station in Russia, but we couldn't agree on the price because they were asking too much money. So we distributed it through our office in St. Petersburg and also through local TV stations, but not that much. And also, relatively recently, I saw these movies on torrent, which torrent, if someone doesn't know, it's a kind of device or program to download pirated movies.
So these are pirated movies now?
Yeah.
Well, I guess they're getting out there, though, right? Well, that's a God thing. That's a story of amazing grace right there.
Absolutely.
Well, kind of sum up how God has worked in your life. I mean, I guess you made the right decision to not pursue additional training at Vanderbilt and go a different direction with your life. Has that been a good thing?
Yes, absolutely. And though it's not just, not decision of one, something once that came in my life. It's also, when you think about eternity and God, it's more important to come to spirituality than to heal your body, and to help someone to come to spirituality It's much more important than to heal someone.
It's okay to heal your body too, but
Yes,
the spiritual
absolutely,
is a whole
but,
lot more important.
It's also about modern medicine. We do not understand a lot of it. And we treat a lot of diseases, but we cure just few. But with ability to come to Jesus Christ, to come to God, you can cure your soul forever.
So this is a higher calling for you than being
I hope so.
a medical doctor.
Absolutely.
Well, we got some time for questions, and Tracy Perkins, I think, has said yes to running around with the microphone. So do you have some questions for Konstantin?
Don't be afraid, people. I'm not Putin, so you can ask questions.
Dr. Konstantin, are you a naturalized citizen of the United States now?
Yes, I am a citizen.
So how long did you spend here before you were made a citizen?
It took me about maybe 7 or 8 years to get American citizenship. And when I'm looking, for example, I don't want to go further details, but when I'm looking on TV how people want to come here and stay illegally, it's kind of very obnoxious for those people who wanted to do it legally. You can do it legally, but you need to take several steps, be qualified, and so on. So it took me 7, 8 years to do that.
Well, I congratulate you on taking the time to go through that process and be American citizen. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Did your grandmother live long enough to appreciate what you were doing for the Lord? Did she see?
Yes, I already was working here at World Christian Broadcasting, but unfortunately she died in 2004. She was 85 at the time.
So for years there was a program where Christians contributed to have Bibles printed and smuggled behind the Iron Curtain. Eastern European missions. Is the Bible more available in Russia now?
Well, I'm glad you recollected Eastern European Mission because this is a great organization. They provided Bible and in general Christian literature for us for years, and they still do that. In 90s and beginning of 2000, maybe until 2006, 7, it was not a problem to teach Bible at school. Right now, only Russian Orthodox Church can do that. But you still can do that, for example, in St. Petersburg, the church that you saw, Niva Church of Christ. They still teach a lot of people. People come on a regular basis, or they just come on Saturdays or during weekdays, and they teach, including kids. It's not a problem. Even though officially state and church are separated, but you know how Russia is. It's many things you can do unofficially. In 90s, when time of great openness came, a lot of people became believers. Most of them became Russian Orthodox Church attendees because it's kind of tradition, and people thought, well, traditionally we used to be Russian Orthodox believers, so we want to be the same. But then it gradually changed, and because of the way Russian Orthodox Church behaves, I think. In a tradition of Russian Orthodox Church, any servant in that church, priest or father, they got to be poor. But it's not the case with Russian Orthodox Church. They do a lot of lavish lifestyles. They drive Mercedes or Lexuses, and people kind of became very uneasy about that. They don't like that. So they turned around, and maybe the last 10 years, it's much less attractiveness to Christianity with common people, I think because of the way Russian Orthodox Church behaves.
Dr. Konstantin, what did you think when Wesley Jones started studying the Bible with you? Didn't that seem really strange to you? What was it that made you want to continue that?
Well, this fact that I came here to Nashville and then suddenly KNLS broadcasting here kind of jolted me. I was really amazed this coincidence. And I thought, well, maybe that's not coincidence. So I started to, and you need to know Wesley Jones in order to understand how he conducted this study. He was very soft man. He never pushed no one. And very gentle. And the way he studied it was very gradual, more like, what do you want to know about Christianity, about God? So, and it was very okay with me because I was very kind of egoistic maybe and didn't want anyone to be in charge of me. But he was very soft man. And this is probably the best case scenario for such people as I am. So I'm very grateful that I met Wesley Jones.
What was the main trigger when you started studying? Where was it that it really started taking root in your life?
Maybe just a certain amount of study that combining influenced me. But maybe just a study of 10 Commandments, because when you study it, you understand that it is hard to follow. But then if every Christian would do the same, it would be excellent society. And of course, for example, if we studied a parable of rich young man, well, I was not rich, but comparatively to other countries of the world, many peoples in the world, I was rich. And I was thinking that when a wealthy young man said, well, this is a hard teaching, who could do that? Who can follow that? But Jesus said, well, with God everything is possible. So what we need to accept God and to follow His steps, and then you understand that it's not that hard, it's easy.
I can't imagine coming from where you were to a system of beliefs. It's amazing. I compliment you so much for that. I'm really proud of you.
Yeah, but you need to understand also the kind of atmosphere of that time, 90s. Because we thought we lived in Soviet Union, it was constant, everything was constant, nothing was changing. But then this dissipation of Soviet Union happened, and we thought, well, now we can do whatever we want. Every possibility is open. And we can think about spirituality. What is that spirituality? We need to find out. So the whole atmosphere kind of also influenced me, I think.
I too went to Cuba just a couple of weeks ago with the church here and saw a little more about how socialism worked over there. And yet I saw wonderful, happy Christian people that didn't even have a church building to meet in, but they met in their homes. And they loved each other so dearly. If I took a group of people to your hometown, what, as a member of Christ Church, could I do for them?
Well, it's kind of not easy question to answer because, well, you need to understand that, for example, in 90s, it was a time of openness and general friendlies between Russia and United States, well, between Soviet Union and United States. But right now, due to all this political turmoil, relationship kind of soured. Russians do not feel opened anymore towards the United States. Not all of them, of course, but much less than in the 90s. So when American travels right now, they do not feel as welcome as maybe 20 years ago, unfortunately. But some missionaries do come to Russia, but mostly they help children's houses with orphans. It's a great help because it's still a lot of orphans in Russia, and you can help a lot, for example, in St. Petersburg, because local church will provide you with information and so on. So that can be a great help.
Is there anything we can do for the churches there to help them to have an easier way of it, or to reach more people, or is there anything that we could be doing to help them?
Well, in St. Petersburg, church is very well supported financially and with facility, so they are doing just great. But in other cities, it's
all depends on a relationship between the church and local government. And
what about the church in your hometown?
Oh, they are very small right now, maybe only 10 people, because they didn't have good relationship with local government, and it's hard to establish. It all depends on kind of local politics, and also Russian Orthodox Church right now, they're trying to dominate over all religions. It's hard to say. You need to kind of apply it to a specific city or specific town.
When you decided to leave your profession and enter the ministry, did your family understand that decision outside of your grandmother?
Not really. Potentially in medical field you can make a lot of more money, but I think that working for Christian non-profit organization is much more rewarding. For example, I broadcast and then I go to Russia to meet with some people in church, believers or unbelievers, and I say that I'm from KNLS, and they say, wait a second, I hear you. We heard you many times. This is, I think, the most rewarding kind of experience in your life, because you meet so many people whom you maybe never met, but by chance you meet them and they say, yeah, we heard your program and thank you very much. And this is very great. And in the medical field, you also need to understand this part, that when I made this decision, I was not easy about medicine in general. We don't know so much about medicine and our bodies that it's just amazing how we can just treat it. I keep my kind of attention towards medical research, recent one, and I found last year Stanford University discovered that 99% of microbes in our body are unknown to science. And this is 2017. I think this is a major discovery for 21st century, but it shows you how little we know about our bodies. But if you study Bible, New Testament, you will understand everything you need to know about your soul. It's much easier, I think.
I think it's marvelous that you went from such a physical, logical, factual life to a spiritual life. Was it a gradual thing?
It was very gradual.
Yes.
Because in movies we always see this marvelous event that happened with someone. It's so profound and it changes. But in my life, everything is so gradual. And yes. I cannot name one. I think that meeting Wesley Jones was that profound event, even though it was not like, it didn't change me in one day, of course, but it's so much more came together and influenced me that changed everything.
God placed the right personality in your life in the form of Wesley Jones to reach you.
But maybe, yes, absolutely, but it's also...
But it's gradual, but he was the right person.
Right, but it's also maybe influenced my grandmother.
Yes.
Because she was mentioning it, but I didn't pay attention, but it was somewhere in my consciousness, subconsciousness.
Well, thank you for being with us, Comrade Konstantin.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for a warm welcome, because before the meeting I was telling Larry that when they will start throwing tomatoes and eggs at me, do I need to duck? When is that? He said, just watch those audience.
And I was debating whether to have vodka up here instead of water.
Right.
Well, next month, May 2nd, Jack Martin will be our guest on Stories of Amazing Grace. Does God answer prayer today? Sometimes God answers with a yes, sometimes with a no, sometimes he says, wait, hold on. Well, in Jack Martin's case, he had stage 4 cancer. The next step in his life was hospice care. He prayed, other people prayed, and the doctors were surprised to find that his body was totally cured of cancer. This is a person who preaches at the Green Ridge Church of Christ in Greenbrier, Tennessee, and not susceptible to TV miraculous type healings. But he had a healing as a result of prayer. So Jack will share his story May 2nd on the next Stories of Amazing Grace. Thank you for being with us. Appreciate it. Thank you.